Welcome to the Versus Men's Podcast, where we're having real conversations and stories on faith, manhood, relationships, culture, and everything else in between. These conversations are tough, but we're honestly doing them because we have to become the men of God that He's called us to be. You aren't the only one who's trying to figure out your faith, your marriage, or you're struggling with an addiction. That's why this podcast exists. So thanks for listening, and if you enjoy this content, like, subscribe, and send it to a friend who needs it. Thanks for joining. Welcome back to Season 2 of the Versus Men's Podcast. And today we have really special guests. We have my friends, George and Tondra Gregory. They are USA Today bestsellers, which congratulations, guys. Their new book, The Marriage Game Plan, is now out. You may recognize them from being conference speakers around the nation for marriages. George speaks to men, though. He is the LA Chargers chaplain, and they're just a fantastic, amazing couple that I know from back home in Orange County. And it's been an amazing just journey seeing you guys and your ministry of Journey for Life just take off. And guys, just thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
So exciting.
And by the way, out the gate, we know some of your listeners are already tuning us out because I'm not the chaplain for the Tennessee Titans. So let me let you off the hook and tell you can root for any team you want to, but pray for the LA Chargers because God, our King, Jesus, is moving on the LA Chargers. Men are getting saved, people are getting baptized, and relationships are getting restored.
It's so cool seeing your social media. And seriously, guys, give them both a follow because it's like, I mean, you're showing guys getting baptized. You're seeing marriages impacted. Yeah. Let's just start here, guys, with tell us how we got to the point of being best-selling marriage authors at this point and speaking at conferences. Mm-hmm. You two met in North Carolina. I love the book. We met in biology class, and there are so many jokes here that I'm going to be just respectful. And but guys, just tell us a little bit more about yourselves.
Yeah. So we did meet in undergrad in Biology 101. And George has told...
First day of college, by the way.
First day of college. And he tells this joke that I asked to see his schedule.
It's not a joke, you did.
And, it's not the truth. But anyway, it's your truth.
It's my interpretation.
But anyway, he said, so we had a lot of the same classes, but that first class was Biology 101. And he said, I asked to get his schedule, and I went and had all of my classes changed to align with his schedule. Right. Because we kept seeing each other in the same class. So that's his version of that.
George, you can probably get in trouble for that these days.
Well, it's the truth. You should never get in trouble for telling the truth.
It's not. He's told this story so long that he believes it's the truth. But anyway, so we started doing marriage ministry, and it was birthed out of our own painful experience. We had gotten pregnant, and we decided to get married, and we rolled the dice. And so we were more or less having more of a crisis. But what we realized is once the dust settled, we were like, oh my gosh, we're so different. We don't know how to be married. We came from so total different backgrounds. We had like this power dynamic that was going on. Mm-hmm. And, we just wouldn't even be at this point had it not been for the grace of God that we figured out how to make our marriage work. And a lot of times couples think just because you get married and you love each other that your marriage is going to thrive. But once the fairy tale ends, then what? Because the dust does settle, and you have to have a strategy and a plan to make your marriage work.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's a lot. You just told them years worth of stuff.
Well, no, that's and even, guys, please pick up the book, because even in the intro... And Tondra, I didn't know as much as your story, and just reading it and like realizing your background. And it was just something of you lean in a little closer when you read, with your background and your mom. And it just also makes me appreciate and understand all the more why each of you fight for what you do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, we, in marriage, what we realize is we're so different, right? And Rick Warren has this saying that opposites attract, then they attack, right?
Who?
Rick Warren, small little figure in the kingdom of God.
In the kingdom of God.
But man, we understand that when we were first married, quite like many of our listeners, that marriage can be tough. We often say that marriage is a team sport, and it can be messy, right? Or you can go through these messy seasons, but it's rewarding if you know you're on the same team and you can fight for not to be right, but fight for oneness in your relationship.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, you now sitting back, you guys are on the media tour pretty much. You guys are speaking at every church. I feel like every other day you're popping up somewhere else. What's been?
Well, we're trying to get to Rolling Hills. Let me
Yeah.
make sure. Shameless plug. So
all the
of our
hills,
listeners out
all
there,
the roads were leading
That's
to
it.
Rolling Hills.
That's it.
Amen. No, it has been amazing. I mean, like, just in God's providence, thinking about all this, George, like, and thinking back 3.5 years ago, and for those, our relationship of knowing each other, we were kind of on staff at the same church before, and I remember meeting you, and we were so excited about what we could do in marriage and men's ministry, and then going through a season of, like, honestly, I still remember being at Stack's Pancake House and being like, George, I'm going to be super, super vulnerable with you. I don't know if I'll be here in the next season.
Sure.
And what you're doing is incredible. And I see what all God's doing in men's, but I just don't know if I'm a part of it.
Sure.
And to think today, guys,
Yeah.
just how faithful God is right now for each of us.
Yeah.
It's an amazing story. But tell me, where has God been showing up in all this for you guys, even in the last few months with this?
Yeah, well, let me first say this, that sometimes we don't understand the season that we're in, but we're called to be faithful to what God's called us to, right? And that might help some of your listeners today is you might be going through the toughest time wherever you're serving, wherever your job is, wherever you just feel like you are in life. And yet, if God's called you to that, be faithful to that before you try to go to another place because you're learning something in that area. And so where we feel like God is for us, man, is just like, we were already probably working together 95% of the time, but now we work together 99% of the time. And we just find that, man, that God's bringing us together more and more. And most men are out there saying, man, I could never be around my wife 99% of the time. But yet there's a grace on our life to do marriage, not marriage together, just marriage, but to do life and to help churches and couples around the world figure out this thing called marriage.
Yeah. And with us writing this book, I feel like our marriage has gone to even another level because of this is why I say we took one for the team, because when we were writing this book, we had so much spiritual warfare
So much.
I'm sure.
against our marriage, against us individually. It's like the enemy did not want this to come to pass. And so George and I joke now that our next book will be how to write a marriage book together and stay happily married.
Stay happily married. Not just married, but happily.
Happily married.
And it's not that we weren't happy,
But it was a lot of
it was
work.
some warfare
Yes.
that went
Yeah.
on.
Can we get into the book? Because I think what makes it very distinctive, guys, and just, like, I'm not trying to pump you here full of compliments, but I think why it so quickly has done well is because it's not just a book and a marriage, like, it's not just literature. I mean, it's engaging, but it's also the level of engagement, because it feels like a workbook in many ways. I mean, even me and my wife we're in the first chapter there and going through, like, wait, we've been married for a decade, we've been together close to 2 decades, like, I should say 15 years. And we've never thought about our vision and mission statement as a marriage.
Yeah.
And, like, in every chapter, there's something that you as a couple are doing. I mean, you're writing a game plan. You're helping marriages or couples write a actual game plan. Can we get into all that you offer in the book? Because I think that's a really big distinctive.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, before we do that, right, let me just tell you who we wrote the book for.
Perfect. There we
Because
go.
I think your audience will get this. Like, we wrote this book not solely for men, but for the language that men speak, right? Right. So it's a marriage book, but we talk about marriage through sports analogies, right? And movie clips and things of that nature. Why? It's because we know that most women, they're going to buy the books, they're going to sign men up for conferences and stuff like that to work
And
on their
hand the
marriage.
marriage books to the man.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But already, right, we have seen more men sign up for small groups that are our own marriage or go to marriage conferences because we felt like we listened to God and he told us how to speak the language of men in this book. And so I want to just...
I wanted to add,
Of course,
like,
you
one
got
of
to
the
tell
players.
about the ladies.
No.
Okay.
One of the players. One of the players came up to George once the book came out and was telling George, when George was telling him the name of the book was The Marriage Game Plan, he was like, I like that. I can connect with that. That's my language. That's something I can do. Like, I need this book for me and my relationship. And so I do think that game plan type terminology works. And the book, it feels like a game plan. There's room in the margins to be working as well.
Yeah.
And I don't want to cut you off, but I did want to just say, yes, like a lot of men are really connecting just even with the title and the feel and the layout of the book.
Yeah. When you look at this book, you're gonna see the front cover looks like a playbook, right? It's got the X's and O's, but we turn it into hearts, right? So it looks like, okay, we know from the sports field, right? And we know all of us were the super jocks, the like American all-stars, right? And we can feel like that in our marriage. And so you open the cover and what you get is it's a book, right? So you read, so you guys got to read, right? Or if you like audio, we got an audio book too. We just don't have it through osmosis yet, but we can get that if you want it. But each chapter...
Only if learning worked that way, buddy.
I know.
That's right. That's right. But each chapter not only has the reading, but it has questions at the end of the chapter that we call putting it into practice, right? See, what we realize is that pros, they get to a level of elite status and on a pro level, not because they're great, it's because they learn to practice every single day of their life, right? And so putting into practice at the end of each chapter is questions that you can answer, your spouse can answer, and then there's like the couples activities that the couples can do together. It's not just a book, it's an interactive exercise. Every chapter is jam-packed with probably stuff that you've never thought to do with your spouse, but it's in there. And then in addition to that, we have a QR code at the end of every chapter that's called a couples timeout. And that's where couples can get a video from us. And we just do a little more coaching and teaching on that particular chapter. And then what the couples aren't realizing, if they read and do the putting it into practice sections, what you're doing is building your own unique game plan. Right.
And by the time you get to chapter 10 helps you pull everything together in a marriage game plan that you've built and that you can take away and keep referring to it or adjusting it as life changes and ups and downs happen.
Yeah.
So we try to make sure that we're coaching people to help them get that game plan. George was saying, we can't just write a book called The Marriage Game Plan and then don't help people get a game plan.
Or
here, you can get the game plan for another $9.99.
That's right. Oh, we should have thought about that, by the way. But what we know is you shouldn't walk away from reading a marriage book and try to make your marriage like other people, right? You should be able to customize the objective truth and make it subjective for your marriage and your relationship. That's why we have plenty of room for you to write out your thoughts, write out your goals, write out where you feel frustrated and say, here's what we need to work on. But man, just get in a game and do it together as a couple.
Yeah, I like that too, because what makes it so unique, it has to be unique because every couple that get together is very unique because each person is coming with a whole set of things and circumstances that has shaped them. And so it's no one size fits all because we're all unique. We're all significant and different. That's what God intended. And then we have to figure out how to come together as one.
Tondra, every couple is unique. It's how the man's lack of communication skills are rearing their head. That's the common part, though.
Yes.
Maybe I'm projecting. All right.
No, I don't think you're projecting.
Yeah,
right?
Men and women speak different languages.
I think it's a scientific fact that women have more words daily than men do.
That's true.
Right?
You're saying that, not me.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm married to a therapist. She tells me that, so it's got to be right. And there's sometimes that I have to tell men, no, say what is on your mind more. Now, say it in an interrogative, like you're asking a question, more so than you're making a statement, like you don't know objective truth, but just ask. So Tondra is very unique. She's she's deep, right? And so my whole life is about figuring her out. It's asking the deeper questions. Why do you do this? Now, she doesn't like when I ask her, why does she do certain things? But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to figure her out. I'm trying to get into her intellectual Minecraft and figure out what makes her tick. And sometimes that takes time. It's not like a microwave thing where it just comes quick.
Yeah. And not only does it take time, I'm constantly changing, you're constantly changing, we're evolving. And so we have to communicate, or we're not going to be tracking with each other and growing together in our marriage, right?
Yeah. I think about in our 20s, how what I thought I needed out of the love languages. Now as mid 30s, looks very different.
Sure.
I even remember telling Kristen probably a year ago that like, I never thought I would not say like physical touch was my love language.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm like, so I don't know how to say this, but I think words of affirmation may
Yes.
actually be the new one.
Right.
Exactly.
But then you're like, but babe, still touch me because I need that too, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But that is so true. We're always changing, always evolving. Yeah.
I mean, so guys, it's pretty unique that I get a couple in here, both with specialties. Men, women, marriage together, and so like I would just love to just ask each of you, like, so George, if you don't mind taking, what are you seeing as you're caring for a lot of men that can relate to our listeners of like, hey, we know you're there at that spot, and Tondra for you too, and then maybe we bring it back together for like. And here's how this interacts with marriages right now that we're seeing on like really in the trenches.
Yeah.
So, I mean, whoever would like to start, but I would love, again, you don't get usually a couple sitting on the couch who are both specialists.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, the first thing that comes to my mind, especially when it comes to our players, is like, how do you make it work?
Yeah.
Right. It's so vast. It's so like a puzzle. In fact, we do talks called a puzzle called marriage. And I think guys are legitimately interested in how do I make my marriage work, but they don't know how, right? It could be the image of marriage doesn't have a clean perspective in our current society, right? We've tried to rename it. We've tried to reframe it. And they legitimately don't know. So what I try to sit down with men and just say, listen, here's God's view on marriage through the Bible, right? And you can do it if you read his playbook, right? And you run his plays. But if you try to run plays based off somebody else's playbook that didn't create marriage, like it's like if we have an apple and we want to use it as a microwave cover, like it's not going to work. You're going to blow your phone up. So stop using things or try to get advice from things that didn't originally create it. Go back to God, ask him, you created marriage. What is it for? How could I make it work? In the Bible, there's legitimate plays that you run and pros practice. So I think that there's a lot of men that's trying to figure out how to make marriage work, but they're doing it on their own. They're watching media, they're watching social media. And I got to tell you guys, just stop it. Just stop it. Go back to God's word, ask him, show you where it is, read our book, right? We tell you in chapter 2 on the playbook called Marriage, and we feel like that there's answers that God has, but I feel like so many men these days are asking, how do I make it work? And that's a legitimate question.
Yeah.
Do you think they're wrestling with shame in that too, of not understanding? Or do they, because I agree.
We men, aren't we? Like, every man feels like he's supposed to know the answer, especially if he's married, right?
Yes.
We feel like, it depends on us. We have to save the world. And that's why some of our marriages aren't working, because we think we should know everything, as opposed to being in a self-discovery mode of, I don't know everything. My wife is on my journey with me. I don't have to lead her in every way. Yeah. Or I can say, hey, babe, I don't know. I could tell my kids, hey, I'm sorry, but I don't know the answer to that, but I'll get back with you, or let's journey together. And so I feel like that, a lot of men don't know, but that's where we make it up and we mess up when we don't know. So that's why being a inquisitive person, asking questions, ask your pastors questions, ask men's leaders in your church. Now you got to ask the right pastors, the right men's leaders, right? But find a model that you know is successful and just ask them, how do you do this? What made you get through this tough storm that you guys went through? Or when you were raising kids, can you teach me how to do it? Because we don't know what we're doing. So we just know, ask the right questions and don't assume that you know everything.
Yeah. And I feel like for women, I feel like we can over-romanticize marriage. I think as little girls, watching the Disney princess, the fairy tale is what we're looking for. And I think it's very surprising to women when men aren't able to, I hear a lot of women say, I shouldn't have to tell him. He should just know. If he loves me, if he really knew me, he would just know. That's so unromantic.
Never been said in Simon's household. Never. Let me be clear about that.
It's so unromantic if I have to tell him, you know.
Yeah. But if any wives are out there, we don't get you guys.
Yes.
Like, we don't. We need you to tell us.
And that is the truth right there, is that men don't get us. Yeah. And because God made us so different. And that's why communication is so key, is we have to tell, we have to give the cheat sheet. Yeah. And I feel like, just to reframe what romantic is, because the fairy tales have really set us up for that drop in expectations. But what is romantic is a man who cares to learn, who cares to know, who cares to sacrifice and learn new habits and admit I messed up and I don't know and I don't have the answers, but I'm going to go find the answers.
So you're saying that's sexy to women?
I'm just encouraging my sisters that, hey, like, just to reframe that, look at romance as something that's sacrificial, because Christ made the ultimate sacrifice, and that's what love is. It's not, it's making that sacrifice. If you have a man that's willing to grow, learn, change, evolve, interested in learning you and making you happy, that is romantic. I think in the movies, though, they just make it seem so automatic and so organic that I think a lot of women feel disappointed when it doesn't happen so automatically and organically. And then they feel like they got the wrong person, or this guy isn't a great guy because he doesn't just know how to read my mind and know how to love me. I have to tell him. And I feel like the reframe is, no, that is romantic, that you would tell him and that he would want to learn how to do that.
Yeah. Well, so then the second part of your question is, how do they do it as a couple, right? What's the outcome of all this, right? Like, you know, I think legitimately couples, they want to win together, right? Not just be roommates, not just be in a home together. They want to win together. Win where? They want to win their home game. They don't want to, we often say you can't just win the away game in your career and your extracurricular activities and doing community events. That's all great and noble. God calls us to look outward, but he challenges us mostly to love your neighbor as yourself. That's your wife, that's your kids, right? And how we do it together is basically winning together. We want to win in our finances. We want to win in lovemaking. We want to win in building a happy home. We want to win at leaving a godly legacy. And I think couples, when they want to win together, they'll be willing to fight together. Not fight each other to be right, but fight for oneness, fight for solidarity, fight to be on the same team.
Yeah.
That's some good stuff right there. For all the guys listening, Tondra, I'd love to hear from you on, like, you know, men know that, like, they ought to be leading their home spiritually. As a woman, like, how do you perceive that? And, like, you know, and I'm sure George has grown in this through the years, but, like, for the guys out there who are like, I want to grow, in helping my wife in this way. Like, I'd love from your perspective, what does that look like that you could invite guys to be like, no, this is really how we want to be led spiritually. Yeah. Like, what does that look like for you guys?
For us, I tell you, is George, you know, like my daughter said it best, for George's birthday, and I could just cry right now.
Don't cry.
Midnight, his birthday, he was going into his birthday, and my daughter came downstairs, and he was on his knees praying. And she was like, "What are you doing, Dad?" He was like, "I'm praying in my birthday." You know what I'm saying? Praying into my birthday that's coming the next day. And, you know, and he'll often get around and gather us, like, if something's going wrong, you know, not wrong in the world, but something that's anxiety provoking or challenging that's going on in our world and our culture, he'll gather us all and he will speak life and who we are over the kids, and then he'll pray for us. And, you know, the kids seeing him, like, serve in church. I love seeing him serve in church. I love seeing, he's such a pastor. So it's kind of like just seeing him and how he serves others and always thinks of others. So I feel like for men leading in the home, it's not about perfection. Trust me, George is not perfect.
Wow.
I'm only highlighting the things that we sit back and it reminds us that he is charting a course for us and he's trying to lead us spiritually. And we don't always get it right, but those are the things, that's how it just looks. It's very organic. You know, it's not something super spiritual. It's just reminding us we're going to turn towards God, which I feel like takes a lot of the pressure off George as the man to have all the answers, because he says, I know where to go.
Exactly.
I know where to turn us. I know where to chart the course. We're going to get on our knees. We're going to gather and grab hands. We're going to pray about this tough season that we're going through. Or, you know, so it's just those moments. And it's not even like it happens a ton of times, but it's so powerful when it does happen, you know, that he points us back to Christ. Yeah.
George, I mean, especially in your line of work, I mean, what you just said, Tondra, is you are only as healthy as a man and as a leader as really where the source of your wisdom is. And if it's not, you know, coming from God, it's going to go haywire eventually.
Right.
And George, you work with a lot of guys. And what has that looked like for you of encouraging guys and not chasing what the world's offering? I mean, and particularly in your field, I mean, those guys have it. But here's the thing, every guy listening to this, and you speak at all places for all men. And there's guys who are not on, you know, the football field that are still pursuing the emptiness in the world in a different way.
Sure. Yeah.
And how do you speak into them?
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. We're all on our journey of significance, right? And here's what I learned, that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And so I'll tell you a story about my first day on the job in LA. Coach Lynn, 2 head coaches ago, introduced me to the team and then sat me beside one of the veteran players. And after the meeting, I asked the veteran player, "Hey, what's your name?" And he chuckled, and he says, "Yeah, my name's Antonio Gates." And then I said, "Okay, Antonio Gates." And then I said, "How long you been here?" And he chuckled again. And he says, I'm a veteran. I've been here about 15 years. I'm an old dog. And so I get home later that night, and my son asked me, "Who'd you meet today?" And so I had to pick up my phone, and I had to go back through the guys that I met. And I said, "I met a guy named Antonio." And he said, "You don't know who Antonio Gates is? You don't deserve that role." Now, maybe your listeners might have picked up this name by now, but Antonio Gates was inducted into the Hall of Fame last weekend, right? Most, you know, one of the greatest tight ends in NFL history. Yeah. So I go back up to Antonio Gates in the locker room a couple weeks later, and I say, "Hey, I know you thought I was crazy when I didn't know who you were." And he says, "Well, I knew you were wet behind the ears if you didn't know me." So I'm getting ready to walk out the locker room after greeting some more guys. And Gates called me back over, and he said, "Chap, come here. And I said, "What's up?" And he says, "But that's why we like you, because you're not about taking anything from us. You're not about what we could give you. You're offering us Christ. You're offering us help. You're trying to clear up what's our purpose," right? And so I tell you that story because I think most men are trying to look for significance. Some of us doing it in wrong ways. Some of us are looking at it in the wrong places. But when I can give men the help, the hope, and direct them into the path, I don't know everything, but I know the God that knows everything, right? And so that's a part of what I get to do, man. I pinch myself every day and I say, wow, like God's called me to pastor men. God's called me to be a leader in my home, but he's also called me to reflect who he is, his image to the world around me. Do that through my marriage. I do that through my chaplaincy, but most of all, I just do it because I'm a regular dude trying to figure out how to do life. And, you know, interesting, we're in Nashville and we're riding down the road this morning, and the song, I could actually tear up now, but the song "Because He Lives" came on. And that's such a theological rich song that what's my life of significance? It's nothing, right? It's all because he lives that we can face tomorrow. So if you're having a bad season, a bad week or whatever, your significance is wrapped up in the cross. You are significant because you are a king's kid, not because of what you do, but because who you are.
So as you guys were writing this book, and you guys said there was some spiritual warfare, what I would love, and
you want to know, you want me to tell you my business now.
Yeah, that's where you know. All right. So can we name one or two things that you guys each saw in each other where you grew in your marriage? Because here's the thing, man, even writing a men's book, I sat there at the end of most chapters and I was like, I'm the guiltiest of them, you know? And I would frequently go to my wife and just be like, I'm really sorry. And like, that's the power of like, sometimes when you're writing stuff, you know, the Lord's putting on your heart to first speak to you.
Yeah.
Sure.
And then you put it in the book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of the nature of it.
Yeah.
It's like preaching sermons. Every good sermon is the one the pastor's preaching to himself first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I've given you enough time to think here.
Okay.
What would you say about each other that you saw a difference in the way that they cared, shaped your marriage? One positive thing, or one thing that, you know, a struggle that's been there that like God spoke into, and you see something different.
Yeah.
Well, I want to start before I forget.
Yes.
Right. So I realize about this about myself. I am an impatient man. Right. I'm A-type. I'm driven.
Yep.
And I don't show grace sometimes. Right. Meaning when I'm in my A-type mode, I'm not as patient and I want to get it done. And my wife, who I'm holding hands with right now, I mean, she has gotten a lot of frustration or like, oh, let's get this done. And she's just trying to help. She's a biblical wife that's like my helpmate. I mean, she's my biggest supporter. She's my cheerleader. She's now my administrator, by the way. She's not even wired that way. But I would say that Tondra has shown me through our book writing process, not just how impatient I am, but she's shown me how patient she is, how kind she is, how loving she is. Look at that smile. You guys can't see the smile, but if you could, I mean, she's just got this healing smile about her. And so whenever I'm not what I need to be, my wife offsets that by what she brings to the table.
Yes.
Yeah.
And for me, I have come to appreciate George even more. It's the thing that frustrates me about him, but it's the thing that I appreciate, which is he's so structured and so organized, and he sees things through a system. And it really helps us. He takes into account my personality and his personality. And this came to a big reveal. We already knew we were different, but this was a higher level of how different we are. So to write a book together so that it could sound like one voice.
Yeah.
Yep.
That
was my next question. It's like, person had to go ahead.
Yes. So he wanted to get a structure where I can be me and he can be him. And then we don't like be at this tug of war. And so he got us a structure and we started to thrive. Because
why don't you tell them how you resisted my structure?
I said it's the thing that frustrates me because I'm not. I'm the complete opposite of someone who's systematic and organized. I like to paint outside of the lines. And I see the beauty.
In other words, man, she's not a rule follower. She lives in the gray. She lives by people are 15 minutes fashionably late everywhere you go, which is not true, by the way.
Yes, but it was through his personality wiring that we were able to get a strategy for us to write this book together, and so that it could sound like one voice, but we could still be true to who we are. And so I don't know if you want me to say what the strategy was, but
we basically wrote an outline, right? And therefore, I wouldn't be writing on a topic that she's already writing 500 chapters on, and then we're like getting to the end, and we're like, we wrote the same thing. No, so we outlined it. We put the outline in the chapters, and then she was able to take her 4 chapters. I was able to take my 4, and I never saw her 4 until the very end, in which we exchanged to put our own voices in each other's chapters. So it gave her the freedom to live in the gray and to be creative, but it gave me the ability to not just be flowy, because I'm a structured guy. I need it. I need it.
Yeah. So and it came out great, like that system of work, because I didn't want to not be myself in the book. I feel like God's wired me a certain way, gifted me. I see things differently, and I think everyone needed to hear my voice and vice versa. And I just feel like it's just been such an analogy for our life of how we were able to figure out how to make this book work in the same way we've had to figure out how to make our marriage work.
But that's a picture, right?
Yeah, that's a picture.
Yeah.
And so anyway, so that's how we were able to do it. But I started out by saying, like, I really appreciate that about you, because I know sometimes I reject that because it's the opposite of me. But it gave me just a newfound appreciation.
I appreciate
for
you
your
for
wiring.
confessing today. Like, the couch is good for confession.
Yes,
And
we're on the couch. We're
and you just said, what? You what?
I appreciate.
You appreciate
the way you're wired.
No, you reject. Confess.
I knew. I usually reject it, but I'm letting you know that yes, I need it in my life.
Man,
it's
I'm
a gift
having
from the Lord.
what I call a Mufasa moment. So Mufasa, who she confessed. Thank
Yes.
you. That was great. Thank you.
Well, no, I mean, when I saw that you guys were co-authoring it, I was
Yes.
like, you guys are just different personalities.
Yes.
I remember meeting George, and I'm like, it was like, hey man, like we're gonna do ministry together. There's a wall. We're about to run through that.
Yeah.
We're gonna run
And
through it.
I was conscious. We're like, why?
Yes.
Is
Why
that
would you
really
do
the
that?
best way to
Yeah.
the destination there?
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
But that's why I
Yes.
love you both. Like you're just
Yeah.
different personalities.
Yes.
But it did. It was very organic in the book. And so like, anyhow, it's you guys, yeah. Do you have anything? I mean, I know you're in full press mode now for this thing.
Yes.
But has God already started to put things on your heart for another book?
Another book.
Oh,
Are you just gonna live in the now?
we're
Yeah.
living in the now. Well, George might not. He lives in the present. I live in the now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
we'll see what
I
he's
live in
thinking.
the future, so I'm already
Yeah.
thinking about the next 5 podcasts while I'm
Yeah.
sitting in this chair.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's some more book ideas. There's some more marriage ministry like programs, some offerings that we have in the hopper.
Yes.
We're going to start a podcast
Nice. Okay.
called the Marriage Game Plan, right? Where we invite couples. We're going to try to get influential couples, maybe some pro athletes, maybe some business people to come on and talk about, hey, when you went through that season in your marriage, what was your game plan? Tell me your strategy. Tell me what plays do you guys run? So we can make this thing called marriage. We can just dumb it down a little bit and get people's personal examples. And so, yeah, we're always dreaming, man.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you why we're always dreaming, because we feel like the one thing that God's called us to do, we don't know about the next marriage ministry people or what your favorite marriage ministry people do, but we know here's what God's called George and Tondra to do, is to help the world reimagine what marriage is through a biblical lens. That's it, because marriage has become so distorted in our culture. Sometimes the church doesn't even know what marriage is anymore, and we are called to help clarify what does it look like by reimagining what God wants from our marriages, so we can start from there, and then we can have better marriages.
George, that's a good word, man. And I think you're right. I think even for the church, we have to recognize that the men and women coming through our doors, sometimes we assume that they know what a biblical marriage looks like. And that's just not true. We can't assume anymore.
Right.
And that's why the things that maybe were, taken as core truths, they're not anymore.
Right.
And so even learning, what it means to forgive a spouse, what it means, these core relational principles in the marriage, they're not obvious anymore.
Right.
And so that's why I appreciate you guys. As we wind down the podcast, where can we see you guys popping up next? Things we can be looking out for.
Yeah, well, you can always, look at our social media, right, to figure out where we are or what events that we're hosting. And you can look us up at Journey for Life Now, any of those tags, whether it's Facebook or IG. Again, if you look at those, you're going to
That's
find out.
Instagram for you out here. What's IG?
That's right. Yeah, that's Instagram or Facebook at Journey for Life Now. All those will, in the future, in a few weeks, we're going to tell you where our podcast is going to be. So that's going to be great. And we're creating a lot of digital online content, actually, so that people can either subscribe to our content or they can see, whether it's videos or whether it's Instagram through stories or whatever, YouTube. We're going to do a lot of that. We're sitting down in front of the camera like never before.
Yeah, and then our website, which is journeyforlifenow.org, where they can also book us to speak. Like if there's a church or any organization that wants to have us come in and help them to do a marriage event. Also, I do relationship coaching. If you want to book a session, if you need to go deeper, like you're in the book and you need to go deeper, you can also book coaching sessions with me through that website as well.
Guys, I am so glad to see you again, that you journeyed to Nashville and that we made this work. Seriously,
Yes.
it's been great to see
Thank you so
guys.
much for having us.
Yeah, man.
This is great.
It's an honor to be here on this couch. It's an honor
Yeah.
to be here in this great city
Yes.
of Nashville.
Yeah. There you guys.
Franklin.
We're
It's
in
greater
Franklin.
Nashville, guys. It's fine.
We've been going around the whole Nashville,
That's right, we have.
Tennessee.
Yeah. Well, guys, thank you again for listening. Just be on the lookout, one, for their book, The Marriage Game Plan. Secondly, we have Versus Equipped with Dr. Chip Dodd on September 4th. You're not going to want to miss that. You can go ahead and register right now. We will put the link in this email description. And thirdly, we have fall groups kicking off. Make sure to get plugged in. We have more options than ever for guys. There's literally no excuse not to get plugged in to deeper community at this point. Everything from integrity and recovery, recognizing the heart, to general men's groups going through my book. At our campuses, we have men's community groups off campus that meet at various times and locations. Again, guys, we always say this, don't go alone. That's at the end of the day, what we're encouraging you is that there's always going to be seasons of life where you're going to look around and you're going to need a friend or two next to you who are walking through something with you. So go ahead and plant deep roots now in deep biblical community, just as George and Tondra were talking about how you can do that in your marriage. It is exactly what we've talked about, but then as friendship as well. Thanks so much for listening. See you on the next episode.